Hey everybody, welcome to part 3 of our tripod mug building series. In today's episode we're going to be glazing. We're going to be trying out some low fire glazes on that frost porcelain and firing them to cone 7. Should be interesting, as well as using a few typical cone 7 glazes. These have been bisque fired now, and I want to do a little experiment. I'm going to try using some of these Mako glazes. And on these Mako glazes, if you turn them to the side, it says special notes. Cone 6 results. And we're going to be firing these to cone 7. It's the porcelain. It says base glaze ingredients, base glaze lightens to a cream clear, crystals turn blue-green, and cascade. Sounds interesting to me, so we're going to try it. So we're going to try Cosmic Black on the outside of one of these cups, Monsoon Seas, which on the back it says base glaze darkens with the greenish hue, crystals turn to blue-green. Also sounds interesting. So that's going to go in the other cup. And then on the inside, we're going to use the Duncan Pure Brilliance clear glaze that we use at the low fire. I have tried this one at cone 6 and it does work great. So that's what we're going to do. I think that it might be really interesting to try the low fire glazes at high fire to see if they do work. After adding 2 thick coats of each glaze, I'm going to go ahead and pour some of the Duncan clear inside of them and swishing them around and pour it out. I'm going to be dipping these pots in my container, my 5-gallon container of glaze here. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do this. Of course, we don't want any glaze on the bottom. So on this one, I've put wax here on the bottom, and that will keep the glaze from sticking to the feet. Another alternative is just to dip the whole thing in there and then wipe away the areas where you don't want glaze. In this case, I think it might be easier for this one to do that because the feet are so small, and I don't want to risk getting wax on this part. Because once you get wax on there, then you have to bisque fire it again. I'm going to be using glaze tongs, and I'm going to grab my cup with the glaze tong, and I'm going to dunk it in the 5-gallon bucket. When I do this, I want to think about the weight of when it's filled up. If I dunk it in sideways and I pick it up like this, there could be a lot of stress on this area of the pot, and it could actually break the pot. So when I dunk it in and pull it up, I want to allow that glaze to drain out. Count to 3, lift up and drain out. I was going to give it a good shake. And then I can set it aside on my table to dry. And you can see how the wax resisted most of the glaze there. For my next pot here, I'm going to be making some blue streaks in the glaze. And to do that, I'm going to use a mixture of half Frit 3134 and half cobalt carbonate. And you can see there's a bunch of water in here as well. And what this is going to do is this is going to melt in the glaze and it's going to make these really beautiful streaks. To help keep it from settling really hard at the bottom of the jar and to make it easier to brush on, I'm using this stuff called gum solution from Amico. This stuff is really awesome. It makes a glaze that wouldn't normally be brushable, and it just makes it flow onto the pot and makes it dry evenly, and it makes it really nice to just brush on glazes. Okay, I've got all the cobalt shaken up, and I'm using this brush. I really like it. It's my favorite brush. It's called the Whisker Brush, and it's really awesome. It holds a lot of glaze, and so it'll make it all the way around the pot. Sometimes I have to go around twice, but most of the time I'll make it all the way around once. Now start here, the cobalt looks pink, but it's going to come out just deep blue. I'm gonna start a nice little stripe here. And then I go back just a little bit there. Okay, and I think I'm gonna go around one more time so it's really nice and deep blue. Give it a good stir. And that's just gonna cascade and drip down the pot and just be beautiful. You can see right here I dripped some, and I'm totally okay with that because this whole thing is gonna get all drippy and it's gonna run all over the place. And this is where I think that the interplay with glaze dripping and running and having texture can be just fascinating. I like to think of it as rocks in a creek, and you can pretend like in the kiln that this glaze is moving around those rocks and making great patterns and such. So this kind of thing, it might look like a mistake right now, but when it comes out of the kiln, it's gonna bleed together and run together with all the rest of this, and it's gonna really enhance the look of the pot in my opinion. So I leave kind of things like that. A viewer asked a question, I thought it was a really good question, on my slab box project. Is the black when you paint the bottom of a pot with black underglaze or any color underglaze, will it wreck the kiln? Is that okay to put on the bottom? Will it stick? And you can see here on my kiln, there's little blue patches everywhere. Those are for my signature. Okay, I often sign the bottom of my pots with, I use black underglaze and I use the sgraffito technique to do my signature on the bottom of a pot. And you can see how my signature has transferred onto the kiln wash of the kiln shelf. Now it doesn't hurt the kiln at all, it doesn't hurt the kiln shelf. The blue marking from the kiln shelf does not transfer back onto the pots, and it does fade after a few firings. You can see some older ones here that are faded slightly. So this is from last firing, that's from the firing before, that's from the firing before that. You can see how it does fade. So I thought that was a really good question. So the black underglaze is more like a black clay. It will not stick to the shelf, but it will leave a ghost image on there. I'm putting down a broken kiln shelf right in the bottom here. This is where I'm gonna put those 2 cups where I use the low fire commercial glaze. So those are where those 2 pots are gonna go. And I'm pretty suspicious. I pretty much think that they're gonna run under the shelf. So I don't wanna wreck my nice shelf here. So this one's already broken. So I'm gonna put those 2 pots there on that broken kiln shelf. So if they run, it's not a big deal. So the low fire glazes, kind of as I expected, it totally ran. It was a total bust. Even if you could control the running, they had all kinds of little pinholes in the glaze, and the clear glaze in the inside crazed severely over the frost porcelain. So no good. Now for the other ones that I use the typical cone 6 glaze that I mixed up, I just can't be any happier with that. The way that it flowed into the texture just came out perfect. And you just can't ask for any more than that. So really happy with those. Thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And if you learned something from this, please click that like button. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe. I got a really cool video coming up, and I gave a little sneak peek there in the video. I don't know if you noticed it, on another mug style. It's pretty cool. So stay tuned for that, and have a great day.